Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Is the microphone working? Can you hear it? Huh? Hello. I can get no satisfaction. Hey, by the way, it's the 60th anniversary of the Rolling Stones, by the way. Yeah. And there's a new recording out. It's got 14 songs on it. And it's all their hits from the 60s and 70s, their major hits. And every song is done by a separate country western artist and their band. And it is absolutely stunning. I mean, the vocals and the instrumentation is out of this time. You know, the Rolling Stones were founded on rhythm and blues, and country music was founded on rhythm and blues. So you got to get that recording. It is just absolutely stunning. Anyway, I digress a little bit. I know I want to sing in front of you guys, but yeah, I'll let it go for another time. I'll be over at Barbecue to You later on singing. The Rolling Stones 60th anniversary. I'm looking at this. I know this age group right here. They know about the Rolling Stones. Anyway, I'm delighted you're all here today. Our special guest today is Mike Carver. He's just a gem here in our community. He's an Air Force brat, traveled a lot, 40 years in corporate America, 26 in Gig Harbor. He's been involved in sales, management, finance, operations, and marketing. He started Wingman Associates 2 years ago. Is his version of retirement. He helps small business owners make the next best decision. He has 2 others on his team. He has 4 kids. He's been married for 40 years. He has a unique perspective after all his experience in business about how to run a business and how to make it succeed. Mike, join us.
Absolutely no reason to clap yet. All right, let me make sure this is. There you go. Oh, probably don't need. Do I need that?
Yes, you do for recording.
Oh, sorry about that.
Stay on the side of the screen so we can.
There you go. Now I feel like I'm doing my podcast. So we go. So I have to talk to this. I will not do that all day. I promise. But I do have to talk like this, right? Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one for me. I'm a bit of a wanderer. I'm not sure. So here's some things we're going to talk about today. This is something I did for Kurt's group a month or so ago. And in my travels and in what I do, I talk to business owners quite a bit. And so it just occurred to me that when he asked me to maybe speak, I would go do some research and try to figure out a little bit about what was happening in the business world amongst small businesses that might be of interest to others. So that's what I did. And I will kind of walk through some of these things. I've done this for Kurt's. I've done it a couple times for a friend up at Raisbeck Aviation High School to their kids. And you will be the next one. So he talked a little bit about, I don't know if that block on the side is going to get in the way of showing things, Miriam. Can that be? Can I get that down to minimize? Oops. Oh. Just in case. You still hear me okay? All right. So, oops, I go backwards. So that is me. The only thing you need to know about this is my pop, who is still alive, is 91, and he flew for the 44th Wild Weasels in Vietnam and in 69 and 70. And so Wingman is named after my father, and he flew 116 missions over about a 14-month time there, based out of southern Thailand at Karat or Air Force Base. And so he was sort of my wingman growing up. We moved an awful lot. I got to do high school over in Europe. He worked for Alexander Haig at the NATO headquarters for 4 years. Happened to be in my high school life. So for all 4 years, I got to live in southern Belgium. And so kind of made me who I am. I had to be a little bit outgoing as an Air Force brat. We moved around a lot. And so here I am. He said, do you want to go into the Air Force? I can get you a good write-up. Maybe even Mr. Haig will say something for you, if you want to go to the Air Force Academy. I said, no, I do not want somebody telling me where I can go, what I can do, where I got to be. So I went to corporate America, where somebody told me where I can go, what I can do, and what I can be for the next 40 years. So I'm not sure I gained anything out of that one. Wingman has just been a joy. It's a way for me to kind of get out of bed and continue to serve the community and help folks. I'm unique when it comes to consultants or coaches in that it's not I did retire. It's not my primary mode of earning money. So what I can do for business owners is slightly different than everybody else. I won't charge as much as every other consultant in the world. I don't need all the money up front. Go ahead. Could be part of the problem. Was I on the wrong side? That was it. Just turning that thing around. I hear that. I hear that. There you go. Or maybe turn it on. Cool. Even better now. I won't have to yell anymore. So there are lots of ways to structure things. The current way that consultants often work is they'll want to come in and assess and do a lot of recommendations and provide, and they'll charge for that and give you their recommendations and oftentimes say, good luck. Please do these, what I'm telling you, and life will be better for you and your company. I tend to go the other way and say, pay me if it was worth something. And the value I bring should be in the results that you see. And hopefully together we can figure out what's going on to help you make the next best decision. So that's kind of what the background is. I will have been married 40 years this June, so in about 2 months, to my lovely bride who is from Indiana as well. So, and all 4 of my kids did go through Gig Harbor High School, and 3 are still here. We have 2 grandkids. That's the best part of my life right now, as every grandparent knows. Here's some facts. What I want to do is just kind of lay some groundwork. I am right in your way. I'm sorry, John. I'll do this, and hopefully it'll still work. There we go. We are a society built of small businesses, as defined by our government. Anybody under 500 employees is a small business. Arguably not the best metric. In Europe, that's 50. In South America, that's under 100. In the United States, it's defined as under 500. So it's a little bigger than a lot of the rest of the world. But when you look at it, 99.9% of all businesses in the United States are under 500 employees. In fact, 80% of the 33 million businesses have no employees. They're single run LLCs or sole entrepreneurships. So you can see, I won't read every single one of these. You can see them as they go through. The bottom line is, it's not quite an even split, but 46% of everybody employed is through a small business. And then you take that 0.01% of businesses that are bigger than 500 employees, and they employ 54%. So you can see the big companies really are big employers across the United States. So some interesting numbers, as you can see. A couple of things here that kind of stand out. People may think that the millennials and the Gen Zs and Xs are taking, or Gen Zs are taking over, and they will absolutely be taking over in time. They have not yet taken over. It is still very much a boomers and Gen X owned market for being a small business owner. There are a lot of young folks coming up who are very interested in wanting to do that, and they just don't quite understand yet all the perils. And some of this today is to talk about that. So you can see some of the other things. Males 57, females 43. That's a huge difference from 30 or 40 years ago. It's a huge difference from quite a while ago. Same with the racial minorities, continues to improve. A little sad that only 6.4% are veterans. I find it interesting here at the bottom, 25% of business, this is as of last year, is done online. But 3/4 of everybody does visit a website first. They want to know something about the company. They want to know what's going on. They look as much as they possibly can. Very interesting at the very bottom for small businesses, and everybody in here who's a small business owner kind of gets this, labors and then inventory. But what do they spend to talk about who they are and what they do in the marketing is still a very low number as a percent of what they bring in. So here's the number of businesses. Again, we're up over 33 million in the United States. This is over the last 5 years. Pretty steady, pretty steady. People keep moving. This is in millions. So I was in healthcare for 33 of my 40 years in my working life. And so that doesn't surprise me. The education and healthcare, 34 million people employed, because it makes sense in every city you go to. That seems to be the number one and two. But then professional business services, and you can see how it kind of works its way down. And then I don't know if there's any surprises there for anybody that's been in business their whole lives who have seen some of these different business segments. And then the number of Americans, you can see the dip right there at the COVID, the beginning of COVID. It was a 6 or 7 million person dip, just loss. Now, did they actually stop working? Did they do something on their own? I don't know that the government actually picked up all on every part of that. But it has started to make a comeback, number of employed Americans. And you see the projection this year close to 160 million. We have 330-ish million people in the United States, many of which are under 18. So we wouldn't be counting those as working folks. Okay. I bring this up because I remember when I started, a long time ago, that there were statistics that came out that, 75, 80% of people just really dislike their job immensely. And it seems like that might be getting a little bit better, but the stress side of it is getting worse. So while you went to work and you were like, this is in the 60s and 70s, maybe I don't love this. I don't love this environment. I don't maybe love what I do. The stress of maybe doing it was different back then. And now things have kind of switched. So you can see some of these 30% are merely somewhat satisfied. So if you add the 49 and the 30, right, you get what translates to be over 100 million, closer to 110 million people who are at least somewhat satisfied with what they do. I just find that encouraging that that there are more people now satisfied with what they do, getting something out of it. Remote workers report higher levels of job satisfaction. Probably not a shock to anybody. We all proved to ourselves over the last 3 years that you do not have to go to an office to do your job. In many, many instances, not all. Certainly there are some you got to go, but in many instances you don't have to. But even as you looked at all those things, and they're somewhat positive, the last statistic didn't jive for me. Over 60% are thinking that they're going to change jobs this year. Now, I can vouch for that. There are statistics right now in the healthcare world that 1/3 of all nurses today are looking to switch their careers, looking to switch out of what they're doing. 1/3 right now. So healthcare is really, really adversely affected right now by stress and things that are going on in the workplace. So here are some of the stress related facts, and some of the numbers here are mind boggling. And again, surveys are surveys, right? They didn't survey 160 million people. But if you extrapolate out some of the numbers here, depression induced absenteeism costs 50 billion a year. And this is a big deal, right? This is on the rise. So mental health is on the rise. You just didn't talk about it 20 years ago. You just grin and bear it. You went through it. You were my father. You're like that guy in the commercial that's an old sergeant. He'd throw a Kleenex box at me and say, shut up and let's go. Let's get going. There's still work to be done. And that was sort of the way it was. Mental health has taken a front stance, right? And people are allowed to say, this isn't working well for me. I need some space. I need some time. I need someone to talk to. I got a lot going on in my life. And ultimately what we want out of all that is more productivity, right? People who are there, and when they're there, they're actually engaged. They're not in the middle of thinking of the other 15 things going on in their life that are causing them all the other stress, making them not as productive as they could be. So anyway, there's a lot of numbers in the middle of this that lead me to believe people aren't as engaged. They're not as they're not there, not as present maybe as either they used to be or they could be right now. And stress has so much to do with that. So much to do with that. And when it takes 75% of an annual worker's salary to cover the lost productivity to replace workers, that's a frightening number. I just saw a number yesterday that a new study came out from 2022. For every nurse that leaves, it's 52 $1,000 in cost to the healthcare system per nurse. And the average turnover rate is 15 to 25%. Oh my gosh, who's budgeting for that number? And you wonder why it costs you $400 to go get 10 minutes with your primary care, right? There you go. Why has everybody got a high deductible? They pray that you don't use it. So here's some of the not so good numbers, small business wise, right? And it's the Bureau of Labor versus the Small Business Association, and they're pretty close back and forth. These are the numbers I told, some of the kids that we were talking to a couple of weeks ago. Don't let this scare you. There's still a lot of very, very good ideas out there in the world. We're not finished. It's kind of like music. The last great song has not been written. The last best business idea, entrepreneurial way to go about doing something better for somebody out there has not been dead, right? We're not done with each other yet. So even if it says, the odds might be slightly against you in starting a brand new business today, it still happens every year. And new ideas come out and brand new businesses start. Great businesses, right? And then there's this whole 38% said self-discipline was the most important factor. And we would probably, those who have run businesses or do run business, would raise our hands and totally agree with that. There's a lot of self-discipline that has to happen. And in general in life, there is either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. It's a saying that we talk with our business owners a lot about, trying to make sure they understand there's going to be some pain one way or the other. You better understand you can either be disciplined, build good habits and behaviors and be successful this way, or you're going to have the pain of regret on the other side because you didn't. So why do they fail? It's part of it's wearing too many hats, but the biggest thing is 42% lack market demand. That is planning. That is preparation, pure and simple. If you went to market with a brand new idea and you failed, 42% of the time is because you did not understand the market. Your product did not attract somebody. It was not the right product in the right place, right? No market demand. So we could have 15 more barbecue places open up, right? Well, there's only a couple that are going to make it, right? For all kinds of reasons, right? And our friend back here would know. There's a whole bunch of reasons why he's doing well and why other barbecue places may or may not do well, why they've come and gone through Gig Harbor, right? And you as a consumer would have a vote in that. You typically will vote with your wallet and your feet, one way or the other. So those two numbers, when you add them up, that's a pretty big percentage that it's either the market demand or you didn't really finance it very well. You didn't capitalize. You don't understand the cash flow situation to actually run a business and keep it going. These other things are really important. They come into play for sure. And what we say is somewhere in the middle of this, are you trying to do this alone? Is it your idea? Are you a body of one? And are you trying to do all things all by yourself and not get any help? And that would be kind of the kiss of death as well. We're not meant to be alone to begin with, much less start a business and do everything else on our own. You have a passion or an expertise. What is that? Everything else should be delegated or put with the people who are experts in that, right? If you're a great tinkerer and engineer, you're probably also not great with finances. You need to hire Marcy's company. Someone needs to do your books. It goes on, right? Don't try to be all things to all people. That will inevitably kill you as a small business owner. Here's our boy, Dr. Chris Stadford. I love his story. We were at his opening. Chris is an awesome dude. He's a doctor. He's an internist. He was a primary care. He's a really, really smart physician who's sick of the system. He just got worn out by it. I'm tired of 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. So he said, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to start my own clinic and I'm going to do it a different way. So for everybody who's got a $3,500 high deductible, who pays $3,500 before they get any real benefit from their insurance company, maybe consider an alternative, since that's what you're going to pay anyway, right? And I may or may not be talking to the right crowd here, but paying $100 to him where you get 90 minutes whenever you want it, with a guy that cares, with a guy that'll stick with you, right? So that's a paradigm shift. The United States in general population is not ready for that. They're stuck in a commercial model of reimbursement through an insurance, through blah, 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 right? That's what we think has got to happen. And the alternative, and I hope going forward and well into the future, is something like what Chris is doing. Right? Give me, what I need is someone to listen to me for more than 10 minutes, right? That's what I really need. And it's hard to get. And if you want to get it, it's going to take you 2 or 3 weeks or longer to find it. So why start? These are the reasons why. And they're still the same reasons that they've always been. I think I can do it better. I think I got a good idea. I think I've got a great recipe. I think whatever it is, I'm sick of working for corporate America. I know what I can do. I can do it better than what they can do. And I start my own business. And that's really very, very typical. And we kind of want that to continue, right? That's the groundswell of how new businesses continue to grow. So I added a couple slides since I saw Kurt, because the high school kids were interested in, well, what should I start? Interestingly enough, so I went and looked it all up. And here are the businesses that are doing well. I find this very interesting. These are very service-oriented types of businesses. And again, I can't do certain things all on my own right now as a homeowner, as an individual person. So I need some help. I need someone to fix my car, maybe to help me lose some weight, maybe any number of these things, right? That are catching on. We know vacation rentals have caught on, right? It's kind of like Uber redefined an entire business market. Well, Airbnb and VRBO redefined an entire vacation business. And it's an amazing thing, right? I don't have to buy, not that I wouldn't like to, I don't have to buy a home in Palm Springs. If I'm going to be there for 3 weeks, I'll rent. I'll go for 3 weeks and I'll rent and I'll walk away. I like that idea. I like that idea. And I like that I can do it in Palm Springs or Arizona or Anna Maria Island in Florida. I can go anywhere and rent for 3 or 4 weeks. So they redefined an entire market. Don't tell me that that's over. There's all kinds of ideas around there. So which ones are the most profitable? It's almost embarrassing for me to be here and see number one, but that I didn't make that up. That is one of the numbers. But what I did was when I retired 2 years ago, we were at the very beginning of this giant movement towards, well, I think I'll just go be a consultant. I'll be a coach. And millions of us dumped into the market doing kind of what I do. And so now we have to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff here. And over time, some will stick around and some won't. And that's okay. There's lots of business out there. People need help. People need folks who have been through it before. Have an objective third-party sounding board that many small business owners, they just don't have. They don't have somebody to say, is this a good idea or not? Am I thinking of everything? Have I thought it through? A lot of people just want that. And that's a great place to be. So you see some of these, and we've got them represented here in the room as well. Some of these folks. I got a good friend that owns Gig Harbor Auto Service downtown. And I told him, I said, well, look at you. Aren't you doing well? You're on both of my lists, Brian. You you picked a very good business, whether you knew it or not. But cars are going to break. You got to get them repaired. There will always be a need, right? So and on it goes. The bottom three, I'm surprised aren't more towards the top. Knowing what people charge for website demand, for IT services, for marketing services nowadays. The interesting part about that, and the reason it may not be the most profitable, a lot of them are not US based, right? If you go to Fiverr, Fiverr is not US. That person may be from Pakistan, Israel, they could be from anywhere in the world, equally intelligent, equally smart about what they're doing, but they just don't have the overhead. All they need is a computer and an internet and just some ability to figure out what do you need done on your computer, on your website. I find that very cool as a way for kids to not only use their creativity that they sometimes gets stifled in school and kind of gets shut down. I want them to go the other way. I want them to use their creativity and find ways, to make a business out of it. So this was kind of directed at the kids. What would you do actually in real life? What would you do right now? And why? And so what I wanted them to do was to think, and I would say this to anybody, do you have a passion for something? Do you have experience at it? Are you good at something? That's the first part. What are your core values? So when you're hiring somebody and you're working for somebody else, your company stands for something. And there should be 3 to 5 core values that you stand for. If you're not hiring somebody who has similar core values, you're asking for trouble down the line. They're not, at some point, you're not going to match up. And equally true, if anybody here has ever been in HR, when you are forced to make a decision, things aren't going well, and we're going to have to part ways. We're parting ways because we value these 3 things, and we've just never seen it. You said you did, but it just never really came through. And we really think honesty and sense of urgency and speed are important, and they never really worked for you. And so we're going to need to part ways, but you're really good at these things. I would suggest finding a job where you can do this, the better way to handle people coming in and going out of an organization. So what motivates you? We do need people who are leaders, right? It's not, I'm not saying take a back seat to everybody. We need people to stand up and take charge. There's no question that we do. How do you do that? How do you live that out is as important. So all those things come into play when we start talking about entrepreneurship. So what can help? These things help. Small business groups, networking groups. How do we go where they are, right? How do we catch them early? How do we get into late high school and universities? Even harder to break into our university systems today, right? Don't know really what they're all being taught on any given campus nowadays. But if it's business and they want to go into business, and if it's entrepreneurialism, I would certainly hope that they are able to go and shadow and talk to and see real business owners, people who have been in. If I say I want to wake up one day and say, I like this real estate thing, I want to go do real estate, there will always be people who do real estate, right? So we've got people in here right now, Larry does. So commercial real estate gets broken down into multiple factors. It's not just wake up and sell a house and be a part-time real estate person. That's one. There's a whole lot of other things in and out around real estate that you could do, right? Well, who's going to teach that? Who's going to tell them that? How are they going to know that? So we got to get to people somehow. We got to get to them earlier, I think. Got to go where they are, use the tools that they use, right? They use this phone. That's what they use all the time. So how do we position ourselves so that they know, oh, I could get help. I could join a chamber. We've got a guy in our Thursday morning group. He's 19 years old. He's been working his own job since he was 14. He's on pace this year to do over $200,000 a year. Why? In a car detailing business. He's got carpal tunnel in both hands. That's how hard he works. 200 grand a year. He's 19. He said, I don't think I need to go to college. I said, I'm not your parents, but you might not. You might have gotten something figured out, right? So at what point does he think like a CEO? How do I run this business instead of doing this business? Kids will come out and say, I need to do the business. That's okay if you're, throwing papers around and mowing yards. Yeah. But at some point, the mentality has to shift. Who's going to teach that? That's what we are. We are the mentors and the coaches who will help this generation learn. How do you go from doing to owning to running? But there's a difference. And it's up here first. It's up here first. So, and we always say, why did the best in any field have a coach? Why do I say that? Tom Brady's got a throwing coach. Tiger Woods has a golf swing coach, and on it goes, right? Their coaches are not better at what they do than Tom Brady or Tiger Woods, but they are singularly focused on one thing. And so if Tiger Woods swing coach comes to him and says, I've watched 400 hours of you doing this, and here's what you're doing wrong. There's a little shift. And Tiger would go, oh my God, I never knew that. That's why I pay you to be my coach. So things that will blindside you, right? So what gets in the way? The usual. We're humans and we get in our own way. Most of this is just us getting in our own way, right? And the pride and the ego and the power, and I got it, and please don't tell me what to do. And right now we've got a generation of kids that want it, and they want it now. we don't want to put in the effort. That's a pretty broad paintbrush right there. That's not true of everybody. I know that. But in general, there's too many people who seemingly got it all by being an influencer and putting a video out, and they made a bunch of money. And there are fewer people like my nephew, who's 35 years old, who stuck to what he thought he was good at 12 years ago when he was 23 in the internet. He started to do commentary on animation. He started with old political cartoons going back to the 1800s, and he would do commentary on them. And he built a following. His name online is called Saberspark. He prints money in his basement, $30,000 to $50,000 a month. He's got 1.6 million followers. He's got people clamoring at him to do advertising on his site. He puts out one video a week. Now that is the exception, even though he's my nephew. There was a point in time when he was 22 when I thought, Steven's not going to make it. He's just not going to make it. He's not going to make it in this world because I don't have a clue what you're talking about. He did, and he stuck to it, and he kept doing it. And now he does commentary as an animated avatar on animation. Who knew, right? But when an influencer can go out and touch all of our kids on TikTok overnight and seemingly make $1 million, all of our kids go, I don't really want to put in the time and the effort to work hard to learn a trade, to do da. I want to do that because then I've got all the money I'll ever need by the time I'm 19 years old. It just doesn't work that way. And we know that because we're experienced. And the the 0.0001% who do make it are influencing everybody else. So that can be very good, and it can also be very, very scary. So do they have the discipline? I say it all the time. I say it all the time. One of those two things is true. You will either have the pain of discipline to do what you need to do, or you will have the pain of regret. One of them is going to happen. So I put this up here because I think it's the best picture I've ever seen of an eagle. And I want to give that guy credit. I don't know where he's from, Steve Burrow Photography. I saw it online. I was like, whoa, that is just really cool. Plus it's a wingman thing. So I just grabbed it. But here's the reality. We are run by small businesses, but the odds are tough and they're not in your favor, and it's really, really hard. And so where do you go? How do you find these groups? The people in every chamber across the United States, in every small town, big or small, there are resources out there that I think a lot of people coming through don't even realize. They don't even recognize that we're here to help, that there are people who have been through what you've been through, and that in many cases, and many people would do it absolutely at no charge, just want to sit down and talk. Would love to help you out. But too many folks right now want to right now. Please, can I get rich right now? And that's just a really hard place to be, right? And I don't know that that's changed. People wanted to get rich in the 50s, 60s, and 70s too. They probably wanted it right now. But the prevailing thought, the prevailing way of doing things was, no, you put your time in. You're an apprentice. You do this, you do this. This is how you get ahead. And in 15, 20 years, you'll be running this place. And they just kind of bought into it. And that's changed. That mentality is kind of shifted. But they're really still not prepared to run the place. They're really not. So how do we help them? Okay, here's a case study. Here's how things happen. If you've got your phone, please take a picture of that. And I'm finished. Please take a picture of that and see what happens. This is you don't have to do it because you guys already did. Those of you who have done it before. And so go online and you will see when it comes up. I did this to the high school kids, all of whom were done by now, by the way. All of whom had already subscribed and joined. So this is my site. This is an old dog learning new tricks, right? So this is my YouTube site, and I do weekly 5 to 7 minute videos that are primarily designed for a small business owner to say, here's something to think about when you are hiring, firing, doing this, managing any number of, sales, marketing, things that that are in my wheelhouse, things that I can speak to. And it's just, they're just tips. They're just life hacks for business folks. They're free. They're just out there, but it's just content, right? But here's what puts it in perspective for me. I have like been doing this for 2 months. I have like 60 subscribers. My nephew could pick up or lose 60 subscribers in a day and he wouldn't even notice with 1.6 million. If 3 or 4 of you just joined and subscribed to my channel, I'll be up by 10%. And there's the difference, right? It's actually somewhat meaningful to me. It means nothing to him. And so the reality of our world is people are being driven by clicks and likes and subscriptions and comments more than we know, way more than we know. The reason when you go online and look for a Viking cruise, that all you see for the next month is Viking cruise ads on your computer is real. If you haven't watched The Social Dilemma, watch it. It's scary. It's really happening. And we can't stop it, which I just did. And now I'm going to get Viking cruise things for the next month. It's already happening on my computer. Every time I log in or on my phone, there it is again. Another Viking cruise ad. I don't know how they know all that. There are algorithms. It's really unique, but you either tap into it and use it with you together, or you can fight it. And fighting, it's not going to be a whole lot of fun. They're going to win. Ultimately, they're going to win. So that's it. That's all I want to talk about. Just a little bit more about business, what was going on. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mike.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
We have some questions.
Hi. Thanks. How much did I pay you? I forgot. Did I forget to pay? That's yeah.
I know zero to think that we have a cost-effective and high-quality healthcare system, and most people think of education. $1,000 a year tuition in college.
Yeah.
40,000 a year, and
Right.
don't satisfy. So my question to you is, who's working, or would you as a coach undertake to retool either of those systems? And what might be the top 2 or 3 things you would seek to bring it out of a coach to fix
Yeah.
education and healthcare?
Great question. I'm probably unarmed on some level. My oldest son is a principal at a school, has done education for the last 20 years. And I wish I could just grab him and bring him up here right now. He has some strong opinions. Part of this goes back to what do we believe as Americans? So there's some core values that we have in America beyond, please don't tell me what to do. So in America, you have the right to choose, and we have a capitalistic society. So we are not in yet a socialist world. It does actually make a difference. So I could say one thing for both those, which is people will point to, look how happy they are in Denmark. I know there's 400,000 people. It's the size of Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's not quite a fair comparison. But if you say, whenever they do that, anybody who says, look how happy, look how good that socialist society is working, they get free education and they get free healthcare. And in every single place that they do that, they pay 50 to 70% tax rates for that. Fundamentally, then, we have a choice to make. My answer would be, where do you want to spend your money? How do you want to direct your chosen political representatives to go in and go after the problem. It's a huge problem. It will not be on either side of this. It will not be fixed easily. But how do we lean into everybody needs healthcare, I believe, and everybody needs an education. Now, does that mean a secondary education, secondary in our world, university level, or just through grade 12? And what are the options? So what we're seeing right now is a splintering. The public school system's not doing so well. It's really under fire. And so my son works for a private school called Fusion Academy. There's 85 of them around the country. Pay to play, one-on-one teaching, one-on-one. The students that come to his place down in LA, they've got the money, right? They've got LeBron James' kid, they've got Sharon Stone's kid, they've got Pete Sampras's kid. So these are people who don't want their kid going to Beverly Hills High. We could all say the same thing. Why do we have other options in town? People will say, I don't want my kid going to Gig Harbor High because I don't want the negative influence, whatever might be there. So my answer is going to be rooted in how do we want as Americans to deal with the issue and what are we willing to pay to fix it? In all honesty, if we splinter it and there now becomes, dozens and dozens and dozens of alternatives for both healthcare and for education, that may be great in a capitalistic market-driven society, but then we're going to get back into profit. And I'm going to be at this. I got to have a business and my business has to make money or I can't stay in business. So how do I do both? How do I serve the greater need and yet still make money if I'm going to run a business individually? It becomes quite the dilemma and a great topic for a future conversation, I would think. I love the question. I probably can't do it much justice today, but I love the question. Yeah. I do need a wingman, Kurt, and you're a good guy to be that guy. Anybody else? Just stop winging it. That's right.
Better education. And I see that it's so true. I think people are see that on a daily basis that our kids aren't getting the education early on that they really need to succeed in life. And it's really just very frustrating because a lot of these kids enter the labor force in their teenage years or right after they graduate from high school, and they need all kinds of training and support, both mentally and physically, in order to do the job. It's really stunning. And it's so different than when we graduated from high school or when we were in high school. Now, you mentioned that one gentleman that started up the auto detailing business. I had him come to my driveway and detail one of our cars. And I, while I was doing it, I was asking him, I knew he was going to charge me. And I said, well, how many jobs you got to do? He goes, I do about 3 or 4 a day. So I started adding it all up. Holy cow. Yeah. This guy's making a fortune. Yeah. Demanding.
It's killing. Yeah. I'm a YouTube University guy. Every time I need to do something, I'm first going to look for the video to say who's done it before me, including how to do the best brisket or whatever it might be, right? Yeah, there you go. I need to find yours then. Yeah. Right.
One or two things coaching wise, tell an accountant or some professional search that sole proprietor, you've got to search this client, but you get so bogged down into the minutia of providing that service that you lose time, you lose balance. Is it blocking? Is it not this demanding client that it's my profession and I want to make money, I want to service them because I'm a good person, but I'm also losing my touch with society.
Yeah. I had some of these conversations before, pretty frequently, actually. It is part and parcel of running a business that the pressure's on you. I own the risk, I own it all. And you feel like if I don't touch every single part of it. It won't be done the way I want it to do. And the fine line is through training and education and ongoing support, when can you delegate? And what should you delegate out? It's clear that you don't know everything about everything, even if it's hard to admit. But if you're really, really great and you have a wonderful recipe and people love what you do and they will come and purchase your product from you, stick with what you do well would be the first guidance I would always give. And now, what don't you do well? Well, I'm not good with books, or I've never really managed people before. Well, who has managed people? And where did they teach that? In high school or college? Nowhere. They don't teach people management. That is an OJT thing, like it or not. You may get a course, you may get a 6-month, or a 6-week course on it. That is not that's not going to help the cause. So at some point, there is a balance. There's a book written, Adapt or Die, by General Rick Lynch, and he was in front of a whole bunch of stuff with Desert Storm and Afghanistan. It's a really good book. And he spoke to a group that I was a part of one point. He said, here's what I told all of my soldiers. We all have the exact same thing every single day happen to us, 24 hours. We get the same amount of time. And so whether you're a business owner or not, he said, here's my time. I'm a 7-hour-a-day sleep guy. I need about 7. I said, that's me too. He said, the first 2 hours of the day are mine. Nobody gets them. My workout, my spiritual time, maybe some time with my wife, a cup of coffee, read a little bit. Those are my hours. He said, for me, that's usually between 5:30 and 7:30 or 6 and 8. An Army guy who wakes up early. I got 15 hours left every single day to do everything else. If you work 8 to 10, I still got 5 to 7 more hours beyond that to eat, to watch some TV, to do whatever else I want to do. We all get the same 24. And I say it just like that. I've got a client right now in Denver, and that's what we talk about. He's struggling with, running a $15 to $18 million construction business. And he's all things to all people. First of all, stop it. You are not all things to all people. You're really good at this. Now find somebody else who can do this and train them up and make sure that they meet your standards, your core values, things that are important to you. So it's not an easy answer, because everybody is going to assume when you're the business owner, it's my risk. Therefore, I really own all that. And you know that as a past individual business owner, you wanted things done a certain way. The reality is we hired people that we thought were great. They were what we called A players, and they matched up, and we hired them, and they were like, said all the right things in the interview, checked all the right boxes. And the first thing we did, we put limits on them. We put a bridle on them, and we said, okay, this is all I want you to do though. How fair is that? Right? When are we going to say, release the hounds? Right? Let go. I want you to do this. Check with me if you're having issues. Love to help you along the way. Let the creativity flow. Yeah. It's all an individual talk though. It's the hardest thing that happens. And those of you who are individual business owners or have been know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. Asking for help early on. Understanding what you're really good at and what you're not good at, taking a personal inventory. I don't think that kids today come out of high school or college. And I did not either, by the way. Went through 4 years of school, back in Indiana, and got done and continued to just work in the restaurant I was at, because nobody came alongside me and said, hey, you know what? You've got a degree from Butler University. You should come over here and do this. No one even talked to me. So even though there's placement systems and things, I would say, learn to ask questions, learn to shadow, learn to come alongside other people, want to be a part of that, right? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. As important as it's ever been. Yeah. I think in days past, when early groups, the Zig Ziglar groups, the stuff that was out there, the Toastmasters, lots and lots of really good groups to give people a chance to talk, to be up in front, to say something intelligent and not stutter through their words. Well, I've been videotaped 50 times in my life, so I've learned how to speak. Well, an 18-year-old hasn't. They don't know that. They don't know what they say or what they do, how they do it. So networking, I think, is key, and it needs to start earlier and earlier for kids. Yeah. Thanks.
Very much.
Appreciate it.
You mentioned early on that one of the industries is healthcare.
Mhm.
And later on, 50% of youth will consider changing their careers.
They don't leave healthcare. So the fascinating thing that's happening in healthcare is that the people who have been there the longest are being treated the worst. That is the truth of it on the floors right now, the average staff nurse, the younger nurse graduates, and there are not enough. There are more spots available than there are people graduating from nursing school. That's just a fact. There's a big gap, and there will continue to be a big gap. But traveling nurses have a whole new world that they get to go to. Here, you're gonna shock if you haven't heard these numbers before. They will pay bonuses between $20,000 and $100,000, documented bonuses, if you will come work for me and make a commitment to at least 2 years. Now, if I'm a 25-year-old nurse and I get to pick and choose where I go and make a bonus, and every 2 years I can go somewhere different, sign me up. That is a whole new lifestyle that did not exist 20 or 30 years ago. And it's killing hospitals because it just creates a constant vacuum. And so the people who are there, who can't leave, who have kids, who are part of a community, who aren't 25, are forced to retrain everybody that comes in every day, all the time. And it is actually sucking the life out of hospitals right now, out of our healthcare institutions. So they don't leave healthcare. They just move around and continue to make great money and do what they love to do. I don't fault them for it, but we created it. We absolutely created it. That does not exist anywhere else in the world. In the world, traveling nurses doesn't exist. Only right here in the United States does that exist. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, we've been going too long.
Very informative. This is the portion of the program where we find out what's happening in the community. And so let's go ahead. Miriam, let's start with you.
We're just not sure who the cell phone number is online. So I'm not sure if that's Katrina or Brittany or whoever. Anyway, so thank you, Mike, for a great presentation. It's something that I think the chamber's committed to working with the school district to really find some ways that we can work with some of the students and get more speakers in front of students that can help expand, kind of a direction. Because I think a lot of students are thinking, what's my next move? Right. So we've been working with the district in the CTE program for helping drive some of that next workforce. It's a long game, but it's a very long game anyway. But thank you for being here. Appreciate it. So at the chamber office, we are starting to really kick it up for Maritime Gig Festival. So there are a couple parade entry spaces left. It's the end of the week, right? That the prices go back up. So for early bird registration for the parade, it ends Friday, and we are looking forward to that. I had a great conversation with your brother, Guy Hoppin, and it looks like the boat shop's going to be able to come do something in the park on Sunday of the Maritime Gig Festival, which that would be fantastic. We're hoping to have a maritime element, more of a maritime element at the Gig Festival this summer. So anyway, looking forward to it. Have any questions? Our office is always open. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Hey, Kurt.
I've got an idea, Miriam. The Public Affairs Forum needs to be in the parade. So, Peter and Mike have already volunteered to carry this banner in the parade. So what's happening at PetMed Parks? Hey, so we're going to do some improvements to the demolay sand spit on Fox Island. We've budgeted a bunch of money for that. We've hired an architect that's going to come up with a plan for that. It's such a popular spot, and we need to address some of the parking issues there. The Fox Island Fishing Pier, we're going to do some improvements there, fix the railing for the ramp that goes down to the fishing pier, and also fix the railings on the ramp. By the way, I don't know if how many of you know this, but there's beach access down there also. There's a nice trail that leads down to the waterfront there. It's a great place to hang out on a beautiful sunny day. And then Narrows Park, which is also on the Narrows, we're going to repave the driveway that goes down from the neighborhood, goes all the way down there. We're going to repave that this summer. And then we're going to make a whole bunch of improvements to Rosedale Hall. We're going to maintain the historical nature of it. We're going to fix it up so it's much more flexible, much easier to use by the public. So anyway, what's happening next week? Can you hand me my schedule? Appreciate it. So speaking of PetMed Parks, Ali Busich, the executive director of PetMed Parks, will be here to give you an update about a bunch of those projects, as well as the indoor recreation center that we're building at the old driving range. So join us then. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kurt and Mike. Thanks again for a great presentation. And thanks to all of you for being here. And hopefully we'll see you next week.